Welcome to Module 1 of English 240. Now that we've completed our online orientation for our creative writing class, as well as our introduction to our writer's workshop, we are starting our first typical week together. So, in this video, I will first talk a bit about the patterns you will see repeated in our typical weeks in general, their shared rhythm, more or less. Next, I'll talk about this first typical week in specific and why it is devoted to a module on the genre of drama. So first, the bit about the patterns you will see repeated in our typical weeks. You'll recall from my first video for this summer, Welcome to English 240, that almost all of our weeks will start on Fridays and end on Thursdays. In those typical weeks, you will have a first set of assignments due on Mondays and a second set of assignments due on Thursdays. Mondays will be the due dates for 3 types of assignments that we will complete for all 4 of the modules devoted to genres of creative writing. Those assignments are called Developing Understandings, Reading Responses, and Writing Exercises, and their numbers will correspond to the number of the module we're working our ways through. For example, Module 1 is devoted to the genre of drama in general and playwriting in specific. So the assignments that are due on Monday have that same number 1 attached to them. In the assignment Developing Understanding 1, you'll make your first attempt to answer the question, what is drama? In Reading Response 1, you will share what you have learned from reading one of the published pieces that are examples of the genre and the form of creative writing you're concentrating on. That is the genre of drama and the form of the 10-minute play. And in Writing Exercise 1, you'll make a first attempt at applying what you have learned by writing a little play of your own. This pattern will repeat itself in Module 2, which will be devoted to the genre of fiction, in Module 3, which will be devoted to the genre of nonfiction, and in Module 4, which will be about poetry. In all 3 of those modules, you will similarly have developing understandings, reading responses, and writing exercises due on Mondays. Thursdays will be the due dates for 2 types of more significant assignments. The first type of assignment will be the shorter minor work in the genre of creative writing that we are covering in depth in that module. Again, the numbers will correspond to the number of the module we're in. For example, at the end of Module 1, you'll be writing Minor Work 1, an approximately 10-minute play of your own. Again, this pattern will repeat itself at the ends of Module 2, when you will write a short story of your own for Minor Work 2, Module 3, when you will write a short creative nonfiction of your own for Minor Work 3, and Module 4, when you will write a short poem of your own for Minor Work 4. And again, all of those minor works will have their official due dates on Thursdays. On only one of those 4 Thursdays, you'll have a second type of assignment due, your writer's workshop piece, which will be the first draft of the one longer major work you'll be writing in the genre of your choice this summer. That first draft of Major Work 1 will be workshopped during a specific week of the class that will be scheduled during our online orientation. So your writer's workshop piece will be either due on Thursday, June 26th, on Thursday, July 3rd, on Thursday, July 10th, or on Thursday, July 17th. Eventually, you'll submit a revised version of Major Work 1 as part of your final portfolio for English 240 on the last Thursday of this summer session, Thursday, July 24th. Now, next, the bit about this first typical week in specific and why it is devoted to a module on the genre of drama. When you start on the assigned readings for Module 1, you'll notice that they are in Chapter 4 of our required textbook, Creative Writing, 4 Genres in Brief, by David Starkey, not in Chapter 1. That's because Starkey starts out his creative writing textbook with poetry, but we start out our creative writing class with drama. One of the reasons we're starting with drama in Module 1 in this first typical week of English 240 is that this is the genre that makes it easiest to illustrate one of the most profound and repeated pieces of advice to newer writers: show, don't tell. After teaching creative writing for about 15 years now, I would rephrase that piece of advice. My advice to all of you aspiring authors would be to show more, tell less. In my materials for all of the creative writing classes I teach, and in most of the compositions classes I teach too, for that matter, I encourage my students over and over to communicate most of the stories they want to tell their audiences in scenes, not summaries. That is, to show more through scenes and to tell less through summaries. This proper proportion is easiest to see in drama, whether it's playwriting or screenwriting, because almost all of the stories told through plays and screenplays are communicated to their audiences in scenes, not summaries. The same principle applies to fiction, nonfiction, and poetry too. It's just that we'll start to learn it here in Module 1 by first reading and then writing drama.